Hey sis.
Who, me? Who, me? Who, me?
Yes, you. Hello, welcome back to the Hey Sis, Yes You podcast. I'm your host, Jalyssa, and today I have the honor of sitting with a woman who has truly spurred me on. There is this scripture that says Christ's love compels us. And when I think of being compelled by somebody's love and somebody's nature, and in this case, somebody's humanity, I think of this woman right here. And so I would love to introduce you to my longtime social media friend, Kayla Craig. Hi,
Oh my
Kayla.
gosh. Hi. This isn't good. I'm already starting to feel a little emotional and we're just starting. I'm so excited to be here and to chat with
I'm
you. You are such a
so
delight.
glad. Oh, friend, no, you truly are just such an inspiration. A little bit about my history of knowing Kayla is I was just sharing with her before we started recording. I don't even remember a time on Instagram that I didn't follow her. I want to say I started following her when I was like a very new young mom, before I knew what influencing and content creation and all of those things were. I found Kayla's page. I don't even know how, honestly. And wow, when I think of intentional motherhood, when I think of living with purpose, I think of Kayla. There is, I mean, just a never ending list of things I can say about how your life online, and you're pretty open. You share like so much of your journey for so many years, your work, your the podcast you used to have, the Upside Down podcast. So much of it has been a go-to for me in my walk with the Lord and in my journey of motherhood, but also in just trying to understand how to live my life out with purpose, on purpose, in my faith, and with great intention. So I am so honored to have you here today. I would love for you to take some time to introduce yourself to the listeners.
Oh, thank you. You're so genuinely kind in your words and in your presence. So I'm so thrilled. I feel like the last time we were able to chat in real time was years ago now. So
Years, yeah.
yeah, I'm just so glad to be here. Yeah, I'm Kayla Craig. My background is in journalism. So I've always thought that that is my excuse to be nosy and to ask questions and, put a little Jesus spin on it, like holy curiosity, right? But I feel like that deep curiosity has been with me in all of the kind of different seasons and stages of my life, in my mothering journey, in my faith journey. And so, I feel like I connect that curiosity with the world around me, with the God who made me, with my neighbor. A lot of that happens on the
Mm,
page for me. So when I'm writing, I feel like that's when things connect for me. That's when I can ask questions and explore it, where I can talk to others and wrestle with words and wrestle with realities and joys and struggles and just kind of the whole of life. And so I wrote 2 books and created an account where I share kind of prayers and modern liturgies for parents to borrow, because I feel like parents, I mean, it's so hard out there for parents.
yeah.
Like the US Surgeon General just released a huge study about how hard it is to be a parent, specifically right now in the time and space that we're in the world that we're raising kids and all the technology and all of the overwhelm and the loneliness and the pressure. I mean,
Mm,
it's so much. And so I'm right there in that too. And I try to create the books, try to create the words or the prayers or whatever it is that I know I need, because if I need it, there's probably a good chance that somebody else might benefit from borrowing it too.
wow. Yeah. And boy, do we. Okay. My girl is being very humble. When she said that she wrote 2 books, she means that she wrote 2 life-changing books. The first book, To Light Their Way, is Ah, I almost get emotional just talking about it because when I think, in I believe in Romans when it talks about like the Spirit will utter like prayers for you, right? When you
Mm,
can't speak. That's what this
yeah.
book has felt like for me. I
Ah,
am like a big prayer person. Anytime when I have blank space, I'm typically talking to God because it keeps my mind sound. Well, the last few years of my life have been pretty challenging. We've been faced with so much loss and grief and change and things like that. And I have gotten to a point, I talk a lot, okay? I've gotten to a point where I feel like I have no words.
Mm.
Then I get my hands on this book, and it has literally felt like you actually cracked open my heart and took pieces of my own groans and anguishes and put them on these pages. And I
Mm.
mean, in every way imaginable. So I want to get into the book, but first I want to hear a little bit about, well, I'm very nosy to your life, so I literally
Oh,
stalk
good.
you for years. I want the people to hear about your own journey in motherhood and parenting. A little bit about even before you became a mother, but your experience, because one thing about you that is really beautiful to watch, and you can literally feel it through the screen because your family dynamic is unique.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, I'm so obsessed with life. Like it is on my bucket list to just like hang out with her in person.
Oh, I would
Okay, like
love that. And
I
she would
love
love
her.
that.
She's so special. But one thing that really screams like evidently out of your feed is you are such a nurturing and intentional mother. So
Mm.
when it comes to that nurturing and intentional journey of yours, is that something that stems from your own journey with your own mother or other women in your life that poured into you and modeled that before you as you were growing up?
Gosh, that's such a good question. Yeah. I think Madeline L'Engle, who wrote Wrinkle in Time, she's one of my favorite
Mm,
writers, and she has this quote, and I won't get it right now, but she talks about how like I'm every person I've ever met, I've every
mm,
place I've ever
yeah,
been. And I feel that. So, my own mother obviously, has had a tremendous impact on my life. And also, so many other people that have
yeah,
nurtured me and cared for me and taken time um to see me and like to delight in my presence and in
mm,
that I feel like that's how God is with us. So when
absolutely.
those people in my life, be it moms, teachers, coaches, just people that come and go in maybe seemingly small ways, but leave a fingerprint on our heart.
Mm,
Um, they all have, I think, had an impact on me and taught
yeah,
me and also like, taught me ways that maybe this is a way that worked for them. And I'm a totally different person. And so my path might look different in mothering and
mm,
look different in my personality. And so there's a lot that we glean from the people in our lives for sure.
mm. That's so good. I need to know. I need to go find that quote because
Yes,
that is
yes.
so good.
It's in
Um,
it's in the back of every season sacred and the acknowledgments
okay.
because that's all I
Oh,
could
okay,
think of was
good.
like, how can I manage to thank all the people in my life that should be
Right.
thanked when yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's so good. I'm excited to get into that book. So when you think about, there's these defining moments that we all have, right?
Yeah.
When is there a moment that you can think about just like on the top of your head where somebody, an interaction with somebody, like you said, a mother, a coach, a teacher, really stands out to you as like a pivotal point where you were really like sharpened and shaped and seen by that person? Because
Mhm.
sometimes when I think about my own journey and my own experiences with my kids, I
Yeah.
think about it's like something pops into my head, like a little thought bubble of an interaction that I had um, that reminds me that that person saw me at that age that I was,
Mhm.
that is their
Mhm.
current age, or that this person made me feel empowered, or, do you have any moments like that that you can think about?
Oh my gosh. It's so wild because when I was writing Every Season Sacred, which is a little different than To Light Their Way because there's more of like an
Yeah.
essay element every week. And it was wild to me the memories that would come up that I've like didn't even know were like nestled into my brain or nestled
That's
into
so
my heart.
cool.
But as I was reflecting on my kids, I started reflecting so much on my own childhood and upbringing and the people in my life. And I write so much about those different moments. One moment that I write about is at Christmas time, and my grandma, like, we're there, and my cousins are there at my grandma's house, and she brings me downstairs because she had painted these Tide laundry detergent baskets. She had like spray painted it and made them look like the gifts that the three kings gave Jesus. And
Oh,
she was like, I made these because I know you guys, you and your cousins like to put on a little like Christmas play. And it was like she had brought me downstairs privately, showed me this, and I just was like, I just felt so, it felt so special. I
yeah.
felt so seen that like everybody's upstairs having fun, and yet she brings me down here and shows this thing that she made that she had been thinking
Wow.
about. And it's seemingly so small, and yet it made me feel so seen and known and loved.
Absolutely. Like that
Yeah.
intentional living. Yes, that
Yes.
is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, so how about your own motherhood journey? Can you share a little bit about you becoming a mom and your family dynamic?
Yeah. So I have four children. And we have grown through both adoption and me giving birth. And I feel like being a mom has been such a formative and like almost like the
Mm,
most sanctifying aspect of my adult life.
mm,
So our son Joseph came to us via international adoption. He was born in Nigeria, so he is Nigerian American and is so incredible and joined our family when he was one. And
mm,
that, you know, I don't think I could have imagined that that's what my life would look like. And it was kind of wild how things kind of fell into place. And we didn't go like a traditional adoption route. We met this person who turned his childhood home into an orphanage in Nigeria
wow.
and turned it into like a 501(c)(3) nonprofit here in Iowa where I live. And then also they have, like locals on the ground nonprofit as well. And it was so wild. I was
Wow.
covering an event as a journalist for a newspaper, and I overheard this man talking, and I had been having dreams about adoption, and it was so wild. My
Oh,
husband and I just been married a few years. We hadn't talked about starting a family like at all, and it just I don't know. I don't even know. It's like that. It's a deep mystery. But we just were open-handed, and it was a journey, and it was not always easy to go deal with two different, countries' governments and try to honor all the requirements and do all of these things. But I feel like in knowing Joseph and getting to know the
mm,
amazing brilliance, sweet, tender, funny, quirky kid that he is, I have experienced God in so many new
mm,
ways, and my world became so much bigger and so much of like, oh, here I am, like a white woman, raising a black son. Like I needed to step back and like learn and
mm,
prioritize listening to other people who have had different experiences that I have and a body like Joseph's body. And I'm
mm,
still in that journey. And that has formed me so much in the things that I am passionate about. And so he's a great kid. We have two more kids that joined us because I gave birth to them, and they're Asher and Abram, and they also are a delight. And it's so fascinating to see how different they can be. Like they're
yeah.
biological brothers, and yet their
Yeah.
personalities are so different, right? And then Eliza, who you talked about, and after, we kind of walked through the adoption journey and are walking through the adoption journey with Joseph, we were just very open-handed. Like, if this is
Yeah.
what God has more for us, then like we're open to that. And our daughter Eliza has Down syndrome, and she has a variety of other needs that came from a seizure disorder that she had. So she, um, needs assistance in her wheelchair, and she's nonverbal. And there's a lot of other things that she works really, really hard to, just show up every day. And she is a delight. And I
Mm,
experience the love of God when I'm with her all the
mm,
time in ways that I have never with another human being. And it's a gift of grace to get to be her mom. And that's not to say that things are always easy. Like it's never always easy to be a parent.
yeah.
That is the deep and hard truth. But there's these glimmers, right? There's these moments where I'm like, I feel so seen and held by God because of the way that Eliza looks at me and
Mm.
touches my cheek and is so quick to forgive and just delights in the presence and um yeah, so I'm just so grateful. Motherhood is the hardest and best thing that I have experienced in my life.
Mm. Wow. That's so beautiful. And it's so beautiful because as you're talking, I'm just like, all these posts or captions or
Oh.
videos are popping into my mind
Yeah.
that over the years have just really like just inspired me. And like
Mm.
Eliza, like her joy
Yes.
is just so like it just changes the atmosphere even in my feed, you know? And
Mhm.
seeing your relationship and connection with her has really just it's just been so beautiful to watch and it does remind me of the father in us when I watch how you love your daughter. And so that has just been so beautiful to watch. And you and Joseph and I remember like having very small like when I was probably a mom of two or three and you would talk about Joseph and you would share these things about him and it would really encourage me. And
Mm.
you know, I would show my boys, like Noah, my oldest, like we feel like we know Joseph because we watched him, you know, like watching him grow up. Or and I'm like,
Oh,
you posted a picture of him recently, and it was like mind blowing.
I
I felt like all the internet auntie emotions rise
Yes.
up.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know how I feel about the fact that he's like leaning down to hug me. And I'm like,
Yes, that's
you were the baby I wore in a
crazy.
baby
I know.
carrier. Like, what
I
is
know.
happening? And
Oh.
it's so beautiful and so sad.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. One thing that you said is that motherhood has been a sanctifying journey.
Yeah.
And I think about, you know, Gina back when
Yes.
she dropped that shirt years ago. I mean, I
Yes.
probably had two kids at the time. Motherhood is sanctifying. And that hashtag, right? It was a hashtag that we were using
Yes.
back in like the 2016 Instagram
Yes.
days. It actually has been almost like a filter, like a lens in which I view my
Mm.
experiences in motherhood.
Mm.
Uh, when it's hard, when it's beautiful, when it requires much mercy and much grace,
Yeah.
is that this is sanctifying. And I think that as I read your book and go through these prayers and pray them over my own children, over my own heart, like right now, because we're in just this like roller coaster right now and our
Mhm.
family and with all the stuff with our home and things, I've been like stuck on the breath prayer area where it's just like you inhale these words and you exhale these truths. And I've just been sitting there. But I can even remember some page like I think page 131 is your prayer about sons, raising your
Oh,
sons.
yes.
I cannot read that without my face flooded in tears because I have five sons, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so it's like you release this gift to the world with
Mm.
this book. And this isn't the beginning though of how you've been blessing us. Your podcast, the Upside Down podcast. I have to tell you, I didn't know. I got saved when I was about 17. I went off into ministry in my early 20s and was in a very predominantly like conservative Christian white world,
Mhm.
like white evangelical space. And the concept of justice almost felt like a cuss word in some of the spaces that I was in. And then I came
Yeah.
across you and your crew and the podcast, and I was like, wait, so they can have that skin tone, love the Lord wholeheartedly, and care about justice. So you're
Mm.
so multifaceted and complex
Mhm.
that it comes off in all of your work. And I'm curious about like, how did you get here? You
Mm.
know, what brought you here? Because to me, you're like a celeb. I'm like, she's so cool. Like, give me your autograph. Like, what even is this? Like, how are you so complex and diverse and wise and intelligent and unique? And it's just so cool. And it's just beautiful to watch. And like I said before, it compels me, you know, and it spurs me on to really want to walk with intention and purpose. So I just want to know, how did you get here? What were some of those pivotal moments in your
Mm.
journey and in your life that led you to be like this beautiful woman of God?
Well, first, you're so generous. You are so like just deeply, deeply kind and generous to say just an ounce of that. So thank you.
I
You have
really
like
mean it.
you've given me like wind beneath my wings for the next
Oh,
year with your kindness.
oh, praise
So
God.
thank
I
you.
really mean it. I really do.
I think it's so true, like what we were just saying. Like every place that we go, everything that we read, everything that we listen to, every person we meet, every instance that we pay attention to is all teaching us something. And I believe
Mm.
pointing us all toward the one who made us
Yeah.
and how to show up in the world as our fullest selves so that we can love our neighbor as
Mm.
ourselves, right? And so that, we're always on a journey. We're always learning and growing. The person I am today is not the person I was 5 years ago. It's not the
Yeah.
person I hope to be in 5 years because I want to keep learning and growing and have
Yeah.
humility to know where I've gotten it wrong and just the openness to be able to grow and to keep growing. And so, um, you know, I've read so much, I've learned so much from other people that are so much wiser and smarter than me, and just learning from people's experiences and just lived
Mm.
experiences too. Like, um, as I'm raising my kids, I'm like, what is the kind of world that I want them to inherit?
Mm.
What is
It's
the
so
kind of
good.
world that I want your boys to inherit? Like that is so formative to me and how I show up in the world.
Mm.
I don't get it right so many times in those moments that I do. I'm just like, by the grace of God, like those choices that we make every day, the influences that we have in our lives. So the way we spend our time, the way we spend our
Mm.
money and our resources and all of those things are choices that we get to make, and they all are made by all the other choices that we have made before us, right? It's
Mm.
always like building on something. So I just feel like I'm an amalgamation of so many incredible, brave, courageous, kind, compassionate, empathetic people that I have met in my real life and that I've never met, but they've shared their stories or their experiences through written word or
Mm.
video or podcasts or whatever it is. And yeah, I'm so grateful.
Wow. It's just so many things that I'm thinking about. One is just that to be extremely teachable,
Mm,
that you are constantly humble enough to open your heart and your mind to the thoughts and ideas and experiences, hardships and wins of other people, and to take those and learn through them. So
mhm,
much so that that is a part of your sanctification journey and a part of your process of becoming, right? Like this journey of becoming that we are all in. That is so beautiful. But two, I think about how discerning you must be, that you can live in a chaotic world that's filled with beauty and mess, right? That's
mhm,
filled with ashes and grace. That's just
mhm.
filled with so much nuance and duality. And take the meat and spit out the bones, as we often hear, right?
Yeah.
That's so encouraging, and that's what I'm wanting like people to hear, because that's what as I'm hearing these things is to be teachable, to be
Mm,
discerning, to be intentional. Like those are some things that I would use to describe you as I'm listening to you talk, and that's good for me to hear. One thing that you just said right now that I just want like to be a tagline on my podcast now. Contributing to the world that your children will grow up in, and my children too. And I
mm,
think that one thing about your presence, your work, your life, your adoption journey that is on display is how will they know that you are my disciples? Is that you love your neighbor more than yourself, that you love one another. Greatest commandment, love God, love people, right? You're displaying that so well. And when you said that, it just really gave me chills because you said you want to contribute to the world that our children grow up in. And it's convicting, it's convicting because it could be a lot easier to err on the side of complaining and
mhm.
grumbling
Yeah.
and bitterness. I think about my own experience. I didn't grow up in church, and then I got saved and got heavily involved in ministry and in church, and had a lot of church hurt with just like true like racism and sexism and all of these things that really damaged me. So I just didn't want nothing to do with church. If
Yeah.
like I just really could do this in my house with a few friends, and like I don't need that thing. And it wasn't really until this last year that the Lord has really softened my heart, challenged
Mm,
my heart to contribute to the thing rather
mm,
than to turn away from or to separate myself from. And so to see the way that you do that so gracefully and so beautifully, again, just compels me. And I hope it does the same for my listeners here, is that we are privileged and challenged to contribute to that which we want to raise our children in, that
Mm.
which we want to experience, be the change you want to see in the world.
Yes.
Right. And I just love that so much. Speaking of your intentionality, you even
Mhm.
have a area in your book that's like prayers for holidays and things like a prayer for Dr. Martin Luther King Day. Like that is so amazing. I would
Mm.
love to hear a little bit about your relationship with prayer.
Mm.
And I don't know that I ever would have thought to pray about Valentine's Day or until I got
Yeah.
my hands on your book. I'm like, she's so holy. Like, who is
Oh.
this?
We really need to hang out in person and you'll be like, okay, this is,
No, I'm
yeah.
coming. I'm coming to Iowa.
Yes, please
But I would
do.
love to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, so in To Light Their Way and then in Every Season Sacred, I say this and it's a way that I end like my benedictions that I share.
Yeah.
May all your life be a prayer. And
Mm.
when I say that, I don't mean like may you be like, just like this little holy angel,
Yeah.
like weeping all the time and, not existing in the real world. But I mean is that like when you are picking up Legos, that
Yeah.
can be a prayer in of itself. Like
Mm.
when you are chopping, the tomatoes for a taco dinner, like that can be a prayer. Like
Yeah.
everything that we do can be a prayer and offering. Like we have all of these opportunities to be mindful of the presence of God that is with us
That's good.
all the time. And so when I think of prayer, it's so easy to overcomplicate it or overthink it or think it has to look this way or it can't look this way or I have to have the perfect words or I can only
Yeah.
pray if like everything is quiet and I have a lit candle and like I'm just at peace. Like that's not my real life. That's not going to happen. I'd like great if that's, what you have access to.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like, what would it look like to pray in the ordinary moments of life? Like when
Mm.
I am doing school pickup and I have like one moment, can I put my phone away and just breathe?
Mm.
And just inhale and exhale and remember like God, you're with me. Like that's a
Mm.
prayer I go back to all the time is because I can easily get like all up in my head and
Yeah.
feel like I'm always looking ahead and like stressed and trying to figure things out and like part of that is just like what it is to be a mom sometimes, right? Like you literally have to figure out the schedule and get him where he needs to go and him where he needs to go.
Mm.
But what would it look like if all of our life could be a prayer? And what would it look like if sometimes you don't have to have the words at all and you can sit in silence? Or what would it look like if your breath could become a prayer and you could just be
Mm.
mindful of the one who gives you each breath? Or what would it look like if when a situation comes and you don't have the words, you don't have the capacity to think one more thing. What about if you could borrow somebody else's? And that
That's
has been so
good.
beneficial to me is to borrow other people's prayers. And so that's what I hope is a gift for other people is like, you don't have the words to pray, like take mine.
Mm.
Yeah.
How beautiful. And that's truly what it is like. And that is what, the concept of us being one body and just being made for communion with
Yeah.
one another. That's so beautifully displayed through your life and through your work. And just so grateful. And you have these cool prayers like uh, for the dirty little hands. So you're like washing your hands of your child. And I think about that when I'm washing my kids' hands because I've read that
Oh.
prayer and I'm like, how beautiful. And it has really, like, I've never prayed more than I've prayed as a mom, right? Ever in my life. But
Yeah.
one thing I love about To Light Their Way is it has truly reminded me that when I'm like doing my son's locks, like I'm retwisting his locks, I'm
Yeah.
like actually praying over,
Oh, I love
like,
that so
Lord,
much.
from the top of his head to the soles of his feet, may he be, just like reminded that in those engagements. I'm putting like eye drops in my son's eyes and I'm praying for his perception and the way that may God, and your book has just done such a great job at actually compelling me to have a life that is just prayer. So thank you
Mm.
for
Gosh,
that. Thank
thank
you for
you.
that.
That's beautiful that you shared. I find so much comfort in knowing Like when I can turn to a prayer and know somebody else has prayed it. And maybe
Yeah.
somebody is even praying it right now. And maybe
Yeah.
somebody will pray it in the future. Like knowing that when I'm praying something somebody else wrote is like a comfort to me that I'm not
Yeah.
alone in this world, or I'm not alone
Yeah.
in this experience or this season or
Yeah.
this struggle or this joy even. It's like
Yeah.
we're like just like you said, like we're made in this like united community of
Yeah.
believers, even if we never even meet each other or know each
Yeah.
other. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's such a beautiful gift from the Lord. And
Mhm.
you are just doing such a great job stewarding that
Mm.
call that He has placed on us all. So I'm super grateful for you for that. Um, Before we wrap up, I would love to hear what you would like I love your benediction at the end of your book. I would love for you to speak to the new mama or the scared mama or the struggling to become a mama,
Mhm.
the adopted mom, the foster mom, the stepmom. Um, I would just love for you to just give like a spurring on of sorts
Oh.
to a woman who is in the thick of motherhood, whatever that may be for her,
Mm.
as we live in this really weary world
Yeah.
and really trying times. Um, how can she keep her head up? How can she keep her eyes up?
Oh, I'll never be able to do this justice because I'm just imagining all of these women and
Yeah.
the fullness of who they are and how they show up and how hard they are on themselves. So,
Mm,
if you're listening, I just want you to know that even though so much of the work that you do is unseen, it is seen by the one who knit you together in your mother's womb and
mm,
knows you and knows your kids so intimately and loves to be with you and adores you and knows that it's hard and that none of us ever get it right all the time,
mm.
but that there is so much grace. And that
Yeah.
if you feel like you're doing a good or a bad job, it's probably an indication that you're doing a lot better job than you think, that you are
Oh.
showing up for your kids. Don't forget to show up for yourself too, because when you care for yourself, you're making space for you to be able to then pour into others. And I just pray
Mm,
that you will able to have your own soul nourished so that you can continue this hard, holy, messy, weird, complicated, beautiful,
mm,
glorious experience of nurturing the kids that have been placed in your care
yeah.
specifically for you in this time. And there's
Mm,
only, I mean, it sounds so cliche, but there's only one
mm,
of you in this whole entire world, in this whole universe. There's only one you with your unique gifts and experiences and talents and stories. And keep going, mama.
whew, girl. I had to like keep myself together this entire conversation. Praise God. Praise
Hmm.
God. Okay, my friend. So you guys follow Kayla on social media. One, you and your husband are the cutest ever.
Oh,
Okay, like
that's how I feel
we
about you and your husband and your
no, we have
family.
to
Like,
double date one day. Like you guys are so
that would be
fun.
so fun.
I love watching your love on
Oh,
Instagram. Like it's just so I could just tell you guys are just light to be around. Like I want to
oh.
visit your house. It's stunning. It's literally magical. There's just so many cool things. So follow Kayla on Instagram so you can fall in love with her like I have because you will. I'm gonna link these books in the show notes because I really mean this. They are life changing. They they are I would I can confidently say that To Light Their Way is probably my second favorite book in the world, next to the scriptures. And here's why: it is a constant reminder of our access to the one who created us.
Mm,
And in every prayer, from parenting to specifics about raising your confident daughters and raising your sons and raising your children to follow Jesus, to praying over your emotional child or your creative child, to inhaling and exhaling breath as prayer.
mm,
It is a reminder to me that God really does care about every little detail. And to me, that is the sweetest sound to know that I can live my life in, like you said, this weird, messy, beautiful, sometimes weary,
Mm,
life and world, connected to a God that cares so much that I can pray over my children's dirty little hands and he will actually give ear to that, to those
mm,
prayers. So everybody should own this book. Can confidently say that. So I will link these in the show notes. Is there
mm.
anything else that you would love to share that you have coming up? Anything that you're doing that you would love to share with the listeners before we close out today?
Gosh, I just thank you. Like I don't think I imagined how life-giving this conversation would be for me. You're
Oh,
so gracious and you're so generous. So thank you. I'm working on my next book, so I'd
yay.
love prayers on that. I kind of put it off until fall started and my kids all got back into school, and now I'm trying to be open-handed with like the words that hopefully I'll be able to share, but love prayers for that as I work on it. I can't wait to share more. And yeah, thank you so
Mm.
much for having me. This has been a gift.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for just being a good steward of your cloud of witnesses. That
Mm,
is truly something that I can hope to attain and do and live out in my own life. So thank you, Kayla. I
mm.
love you. I honor you. I appreciate you. I literally do praise God for you. And thanks for being here today.
Thank you. I'm gonna cry.